one secret has been hiding in plain sight this entire season. And if episode 6 goes where I think it's going, it won't just change one character's future, it could completely change the outcome of the Dance of the Dragons. We've spent weeks watching kings fight for crowns, queens struggle to hold power, dragons prepare for war, and armies march toward their next battle. But sometimes the most dangerous weapon isn't a dragon or an army. Sometimes it's a secret that nobody realizes has been shaping every decision from the shadows. And that's exactly why episode 6 feels so important. The trailer gives us several small moments that don't seem connected at first, but once you start putting them together, they begin telling a much bigger story. A story about hidden motives, secret alliances, quiet manipulation, and one revelation that could make us look at everything we've watched this season in a completely different way. The more I watched the trailer, the more convinced I became that the biggest twist isn't going to be another dragon battle or another shocking death. I think the real surprise is going to come from the truth that's finally ready to come into the light. And if that happens, nobody, not Rhaenyra, Daemon, Alicent, or even Criston Cole, is going to walk away unchanged. So let's break everything down, because episode 6 might secretly be the most important episode of the entire season. Section 1. The first thing that immediately caught my attention wasn't actually a battle or even a dragon. It was how every single storyline in the trailer seems to revolve around information that certain characters have while everyone else is completely in the dark. That's what makes this episode feel different from the previous ones. Earlier in the season, the conflict was mostly about armies moving into position and political leaders trying to outsmart each other. But now it feels like knowledge itself has become the strongest weapon in Westeros. Whoever knows the truth first gains the advantage, while everyone else is left reacting too late. And I honestly think that's exactly what episode 6 is building toward. If you think back to everything that's happened recently, almost every major disaster started because somebody didn't know the full story. Characters have been making decisions based on incomplete information, believing rumors instead of facts, or trusting people who have completely different agendas. That's been a recurring pattern all season, and episode 6 feels like the moment when all those hidden pieces finally begin connecting together. The trailer doesn't openly reveal this, but it quietly hints that several characters are much closer to discovering the truth than they realize. Now let's talk about King's Landing, because this is where I think the biggest secret is going to have the strongest impact. On the surface, Rhaenyra appears to be sitting on the Iron Throne with control of the capital. From the outside, it almost looks like victory, but the closer you look, the more unstable everything becomes. The city isn't united behind her. Fear is spreading through the streets. The gold cloaks are no longer inspiring confidence. The small folk are hearing different stories every single day, and that's creating an atmosphere where almost anything can happen. That's exactly the kind of environment where dangerous secrets become even more powerful. One detail that keeps standing out to me is how quietly Ormond continues to work behind the scenes. He's not trying to defeat Rhaenyra through one massive battle. Instead, he's slowly changing how people think. That's a completely different kind of warfare. Every rumor that spreads through King's Landing weakens Rhaenyra without anyone lifting a sword. Every whisper makes people question who truly deserves the throne. Every symbol placed into the hands of the small folk slowly reshapes public opinion. It's psychological warfare, and honestly, it might be even more dangerous than Dragonfire. I also think Daemon is beginning to understand this before almost everyone else. Throughout the season, Daemon has usually preferred direct action. When he sees a problem, his instinct is to eliminate it immediately. But now he's facing an enemy that can't simply be defeated on a battlefield. How do you fight rumors? How do you kill fear? How do you stop people from believing something once it's already spread across an entire city? Those are questions dragons can't answer. Meanwhile, Rhaenyra continues focusing on the military threats surrounding her kingdom, and I don't necessarily think she's wrong either. From her perspective, dragons like Vhagar remain the greatest danger. One attack from a dragon can destroy years of careful planning in a matter of minutes. But while she's looking toward the skies, another enemy is quietly growing beneath her feet. That's what makes this situation so fascinating. Both Daemon and Rhaenyra are trying to protect the same kingdom, but they're fighting two completely different wars. One is preparing for dragons. The other is preparing for betrayal. And that's where I believe the biggest secret starts becoming incredibly important. What if someone has already figured out exactly how divided the Blacks have become? What if someone has been intentionally encouraging those divisions from the very beginning? Suddenly, all those smaller moments throughout the season begin looking much more deliberate instead of accidental. Conversations that seemed harmless might actually have been carefully planned. Alliances that appeared genuine may have been built on lies. Even certain betrayals could end up revealing a completely different meaning. Once the truth finally comes out, another thing I noticed is how carefully the trailer avoids showing the complete picture during several important scenes. We hear dialogue without seeing who's speaking. We watch reactions before we understand what caused them. That's something this series has done before whenever it's protecting a major twist. Instead of giving viewers the answer, it gives us emotional reactions first. That immediately makes me wonder whether episode 6 is hiding a revelation that's much larger than we're expecting. What's especially interesting is that nearly every major character seems worried about something different. Daemon fears hesitation. Rhaenyra fears losing control. Alicent fears for her family. Criston Cole fears dying without honor. Aemond fears appearing weak. But what if all those fears are connected by one single truth that nobody fully understands yet? That possibility honestly makes episode 6 feel incredibly unpredictable because once hidden information becomes public, every relationship changes overnight. And that's why I don't think the biggest moment of this episode is necessarily going to be a battle. Yes, we'll almost certainly get incredible action. Yes, the Butcher's Ball could become one of the season's most unforgettable sequences. But after everything we've seen so far, I keep coming back to the same idea. The real turning point won't be decided by who swings the first sword. It'll be decided by who learns the truth first. Because once that secret is revealed, the entire war could begin moving in a completely different direction. Now, let's shift our attention to Harrenhal because I honestly think this is where the mystery surrounding episode 6 becomes even more interesting. While King's Landing is busy dealing with politics, rumors, and public opinion, Harrenhal feels like it's operating under an entirely different set of rules. Every scene there has this strange feeling that something much bigger is happening beneath the surface, even when the characters barely say a word. And that's exactly why I believe one of the biggest secrets in episode 6 is connected to what has been quietly unfolding inside those ancient walls. The relationship between Aemond and Alys Rivers has never felt simple. From the very beginning, it has always seemed like Alys knows much more than she's willing to admit. Every conversation between them feels carefully controlled. She never gives away too much information, but at the same time, she somehow manages to influence nearly every decision Aemond makes. That isn't an accident. I think the writers have been building towards something much larger ever since these two characters first shared the screen together. If you really pay attention, Alys rarely tells people exactly what they should do. Instead, she plants ideas. She asks questions. She allows people to convince themselves that the decision was their own. That's an incredibly dangerous kind of influence because the person being manipulated never realizes they're being manipulated at all. And honestly, I think Aemond is starting to fall deeper into that trap with every episode. The trailer continues hinting that Aemond is still recovering, both physically and mentally. But recovery doesn't always make someone stronger. Sometimes it makes them more vulnerable. A person searching for answers is much easier to guide than someone who already believes they know the truth. That's why I think Alys has become such an important figure in this story. She's not simply helping Aemond survive. She may actually be shaping the future of the entire war without anyone else realizing it. One secret has been hiding in plain sight this entire season. And if episode 6 goes where I think it's going, it won't just change one character's future, it could completely change the outcome of the Dance of the Dragons. We've spent weeks watching kings fight for crowns, queens struggle to hold power, dragons prepare for war, and armies march toward their next battle. But sometimes the most dangerous weapon isn't a dragon or an army. Sometimes it's a secret that nobody realizes has been shaping every decision from the shadows. And that's exactly why episode 6 feels so important. The trailer gives us several small moments that don't seem connected at first, but once you start putting them together, they begin telling a much bigger story. A story about hidden motives, secret alliances, quiet manipulation, and one revelation that could make us look at everything we've watched this season in a completely different way. The more I watch